The screen has disappeared for me.
That is possibly because I've just gone on to Teams to let somebody in. Is it back now, Jane?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Okay, perfect. If it disappears, everybody, if the screen disappears, it's just because more people are arriving and I need to go back into Teams to let them in. So I am going to keep an eye on that. Right, welcome everybody. Hope you're all looking forward to your Scottish Highlands Triple Challenge. My name is Laura. I am one of the operations managers at Charity Challenge. So I've been working with Jim, who is your event manager, who will actually be running this event on the ground with you and setting up all logistics and things like that at the start. I hope you're all really looking forward to it. Clearly Scotland is saving its weather for when you get up there in October. Hopefully you'll get the kind of weather this photo shows here. Let's see if I can click through. There we go. Right. So I'm going to go through quite a lot in this presentation just now. There's a quick list there. Hopefully Kat has sent you what we call a final details document, which just goes through all of these things in a document. So you will have that there as well as the recording of this. That will have key things like what time you will need to meet in Fort William and where exactly you need to be. So a quick overview. So in case anybody thought this was just a walk, just to confirm you are going to be cycling, trekking and kayaking. You're going to do this across 2 days. One day we'll be going up Ben Nevis. It is a full day, which is why we're splitting it out. And the other day you're going to be cycling and kayaking. And obviously you're all here to fundraise for Railway Children, and Kat's going to talk a little bit about that towards the end and ways to help there. So just to go through the itinerary, on day 1, you're going to be meeting in Fort William. We're going to ask you to meet outside the Travel Lodge in Fort William. It's the opposite end of the high street to the train station. The high street itself is not very long. It does have a lot of restaurants and places to eat there, and I would definitely recommend that you eat before you meet at 7:30 in the evening, because we are then going to have a transfer into Glen Nevis, which is where the youth hostel is. There aren't really other places to eat in the Glen. There is a pub, but the serving times change with the seasons. So I would definitely recommend that you eat before you meet. There will be a coach transfer from Fort William into the Glen. It's only 10 minutes. It's not very long. Once you've all arrived in the Glen at your hostel, Jim will do a safety briefing with you. He'll check you all into your rooms and he'll take you through the plans for the days. So I don't want to go into loads of detail for each day at this briefing, because Jim will do that at the start of each day and he'll be able to answer more of your questions as well. Just so you know, accommodation is in shared rooms at Glen Nevis. So they do have bunk beds, there are shared bathrooms. Bedding will be provided, but please bring your own towels. And I would definitely recommend bringing some earplugs just in case there are any snorers in the room. Thursday. So this is the first day of your challenge. It is going to feel like a long day. Both activities, groups are quite long activities, but hopefully they'll be a lot of fun. So because we have got a large group of you, we're going to be splitting the group into half. That means that one group will be doing Ben Nevis on the first day and then cycling and kayaking on the second day. The other group, meanwhile, will do cycling and kayaking on the first day and Ben Nevis on the second day. That makes sense. Hopefully that will make sense. Kat has split you into groups, and I'm sure that she will let you know which group you're in, but Jim will also have the list, so he'll be able to go through that with you when you arrive. So on the first day, those who are doing Ben Nevis, you'll have breakfast. You'll receive your packed lunches at breakfast to put in your bags, and then you'll start trekking up the mountain. You do have a steep start to the day. You are walking straight out of the hostel and up the hill. So just to prepare you for that, just keep it in your head that the steepest bit is right at the start and then it eases off a little bit. Obviously, it is a mountain. It is a challenge. You are going to be going up for at least half of the day until you get to the summit. We're going to be going up the main, what's called the tourist track, or the mountain path, the pony path. There's lots of different names for the way that you're going up. It is nice and scenic. You have a lock that's halfway. We have the famous zigzags where you go up through some scree to get near to the summit plateaus. And hopefully you're going to have some fantastic views of the Highlands when you get to the top there. We are expecting this to take 8 hours to do. Your leaders will manage the pace, because obviously we don't want people to run off at the beginning and lose all of their energy before they get up to the top. I will say we're going to manage the pace. If there is anybody who is struggling, we will have enough leaders there. So somebody does need to come down early. If anyone's having any issues, we can do that. But we want to keep you together as a group because it is a team challenge. We do want you to be able to all summit. So the idea is to support each other, encourage each other. If you are one of the faster ones, have a chat with people at the back who might be finding it a little bit harder. And I can guarantee you that you will all come across a point which you find harder through the 2 days. And the idea is to support each other there and help each other through. It is a challenge. Remember that you're raising money for the Railway Children, and it will feel a challenge at times, but there's going to be some spectacular moments too. And hopefully you'll all have that point where you just look around you and you go, wow, I'm really glad I'm here. So whilst the group are going up Ben Nevis, we will have the bike and kayak group set off. You guys are going to be setting off from the hostel. We're going to be starting fairly early again. And you'll be cycling from the hostel out towards the kayak location, which is on Loch Lochy. You're going to have a briefing on your bikes before you leave, so you'll get set up with the right bike for you. You'll get shown how to use it. Kind of the safety talks will be given then as well. We're going to have a group of roughly kind of 18 to 20 doing that, and you guys will be split roughly into 2 groups as well. You'll all be starting together, but we're expecting that you'll spread out a little bit through the day, and you'll have leaders to manage that as 2 groups. So we might have a bit of a faster group and a bit of a slower group. Again, you will have leaders with you. You also have a support vehicle on this route, so if anybody needs to stop at any point and jump in the support vehicle for a little bit, you can do. The cycle route itself, you start off on a lovely road out of the Glen. You do have to get through Fort William to get out the other side, but it'll be nice and quiet at that time of the day. You're then on quiet lanes up to a forestry track where you have an exciting little off-road section. Just to calm your expectations, nobody is going to be going on the World Mountain Bike downhill track or anything like this. This is kind of forest tracks through a woodland area, so there aren't going to be any jumps or anything like that. This is for people who don't necessarily do loads of cycling. It's just to reassure you guys there. Once you get to the kayak location, that'll be lunchtime. And we'll do the safety briefing with you about the kayaks. They are sit on top kayaks. There's 2 people per kayak, and you'll get again a full briefing on how to use those. We have a motorboat which will be there for safety support as well, so you'll be fully supported by your leaders. After you finish the kayaking section, the time is then to cycle back to the hostel. That's a shorter section. It's very flat. It's basically along a canal, so it's as flat as a canal, back into Fort William and along the Glen into the hostel. I forgot to mention, you will get the opportunity to change in between the biking and kayaking sections. So you'll be able to put a bag in the van to change into some different clothes should you choose. I'll talk about kit in a little bit, but just to reassure you, you'll get that opportunity. There aren't changing rooms. It is in the back of a van, so it'll need to be managed a little bit there between men and women, and Jim will sort that out on the date with his leaders. But do plan to take some extra clothes with you in case you do get wet on the kayaking. We've never had anyone fall in yet, but you know, there's a chance it might rain and you might appreciate getting some other clothes on. Right, when you all get back, we'll have a group dinner. So you'll get to all chat about what happened with your days there. And the aim there is to motivate and encourage the group for the next day. We don't want any stories about, oh my God, it was the hardest thing I did, even if it was, because it's all personal and it's all subjective. And we just want people to make sure they're really looking forward to the next day. So the second day, I'm going to swap over. If you did Ben Nevis on the first day, you'll be doing cycling and kayaking on the second day and vice versa. We do start earlier this day. That's because we need to get you guys back for your onwards journeys in Fort William. So we're aiming to finish at roughly 2:30, and the bus is going to pick you up to take you back into Fort William at 3. So the bus will pick you up at 3. It's a 10-minute journey, and we'll be dropping you off at the train station there. We do have a slight difference in the times that the groups will start, just for safety reasons. Because it is October, there's less daylight, and we don't want the cycling group out in the dark. The walkers will be starting earlier because we want to make sure you guys have got as much time as possible to get to the summit of Ben Nevis and down again. So just make sure you come prepared to be walking in the dark for the start of that day. Hopefully it'll be that kind of dawn time, so it's not totally dark, but I would say you'll need to bring head torches with you. This morning, breakfast will be earlier, and we will need to check out that morning because we're not staying the following night. So your overnight bags will need to be put into one of our support vehicles, and you'll be reunited with them at the end of the day when we all finish together. So just make sure you've got what you need for the day in your backpacks when you leave, because you won't have access to your overnight bags during the day. To be honest, that's the same as the first day because they'll be at the hostel. So it's no different really. It's just they're in a van rather than in the hostel. So the walkers will leave just before the dawn, and the cyclists will be leaving just after dawn, so you're in the daylight. The aim here is to finish together at Glen Nevis, which is a visitor centre. So you'll have the toilets there. You'll have an opportunity to get changed there if you choose to, before the coach picks you up and takes you back into Fort William. Anything else you need to say there? I'm just double checking. I think that was the main thing to say about that day. So just be aware that timings, we need to be quite hot on that day. So if your leaders say, okay, guys, we've got a choice to make here, we push on, or if somebody's finding it a little bit more challenging with the cycling section, it might be there's an opportunity to get into the van to just get you ahead onto the kayaking section a little bit earlier. The aim is that we need to get everybody back on time. So if the leaders are recommending something to you, do listen to them, because it is made with the group in mind, not just group safety, but also the timings for that day, because we need to make sure people don't miss their onward connections. So talking about timings, this is the rough plan. I will say that this is slightly flexible. If we decide that we want to start earlier on the last day, then we have got that option for the walkers. It's just the cyclists we have to make sure we start in daylight. The key one for you all to remember is just to meet at 7:30 in the evening outside the Travelodge in Fort William. Jim will take it from there and he'll remind you of all the other timings from there. So that's the key one to remember. Right, difficulty, weather and terrain. I'm sure there are a few people feeling a little bit nervous out there. Clearly, it's not something everyone has done before. It might not be an area you visited before. I just want to reassure you that the leaders are there to support you. It is still going to feel like a challenge. So Ben Nevis, it's the highest mountain in the UK. You are going to be walking for 8 hours. It isn't one where you're going to have loads and loads of breaks. It's not one where we get to the top and have like an hour's picnic, because we do need to make sure that we keep walking. We don't want people to get cold and have sore limbs ready for the next day. The path is steep. There are uneven sections on the way up Ben Nevis as well. The photograph that you can see there is one of the nicer sections. Further up, you do have some scree, which is kind of loose rock to go on. So if you are somebody who might have knees or ankles that need a bit more support, I would thoroughly recommend bringing walking poles with you. The bike section is mostly on quiet country lanes. We have got a forestry trail section to go as well, which is on fire roads. And there is a bit of road through Fort William as well, but it should be a quiet time of day for that. Just to let you know, the off-road sections, mainly in the forest, can be uneven, and then they can get muddy as well. So just to let you know that. The kayaking, surprisingly, is the flattest part of your activities. You're going to be starting on a canal. It's the Caledonian Canal. There's a tiny bit of that before you get out into the loch proper. In terms of weather there, the leaders may need to adjust the route and how long you're out on the loch there. So if we do get lots of wind coming through, it can make it a little bit more difficult to kayak, and they'll adjust it accordingly there. But we will make sure that you do get your challenge in. I've mentioned leaders quite a lot so far. Jim was going to be on the call with us. I don't think he's able to make it now, so my apologies for that. Jim has led many of our triples for years now. So we have a Scottish triple, this one, we have the Lakes triple and the Snowdon one. Jim's really experienced with leading these. Any questions that you've got, he will be able to answer. Any concerns you've got, he will manage them. He's really supportive and really friendly, and so are his leaders. So you'll have some leaders taking you up Ben Nevis, and you'll have different leaders who'll be doing the cycling and the kayaking with you. So you'll have a whole leadership team that you'll get to know during the event. If you do have any concerns, if you feel like you've twinged your knee or anything like that, just let the leader know as soon as possible. They are there to look after you and support you. So if there's something that they can do, they will do their utmost to help you with it. Food and drink, which is probably quite a high priority for some people. It helps with the motivation. Hang on, I've just skipped forwards there. Breakfast is at the youth hostel. On the days when we are leaving earlier, it may be that the hot breakfast isn't available just because the chefs come in a little bit later. So I'm thinking mainly that last day there. We will make sure there is enough food for everybody, but breakfast-wise, it may be a continental one on that last day, just depending on what time we end up setting off. Packed lunches usually consist of a sandwich, a piece of fruit, some crisps, a snack bar. There'll be water that you can fill up at the hostel. And for those who are doing the cycling and the kayaking, you'll have checkpoints with a vehicle that will provide top-ups for snacks and water as well. For those of you going up Ben Nevis on the first day particularly, just make sure that you've topped up your water bottles so you have at least 2 litres with you for the mountain. There are no refill points on Ben Nevis. For those of you who've done Snowdon or expecting a cafe at the top, I'm afraid that isn't an option on Ben Nevis. So whatever you need for the day, you need to take up with you. You'll have dinner when you get back on that first day. We'll have it all together at the hostel. And on the Friday, because we're finishing at 2:30, 3 o'clock, dinner won't be included. So just bear that in mind for whatever train journeys you've got planned home. I've already mentioned dinner on the arrival day not being included. So just make sure that you have had that before you meet the group at the travel lodge and go for your transfer to the hostel. For anyone who's still training, who's going out and practicing with their gear, I'd also recommend just practicing what food you eat as well. A few people decide on the day that they're going to take energy gels with them. Some people don't always get on with them, so just test out the food that you're intending to take with you before you get there. And I would always recommend taking something to share as well. A jelly baby or 2 usually goes down quite well with people. Essential kit then. So clearly we've got different activities to do. So I'm going to go through Ben Nevis first. I would recommend preparing for all weathers. So Scotland, you can have glorious sunshine one moment and it can snow on you the next. We're not expecting snow where you need ice axe and crampons or anything like that, but I would recommend taking a sun hat, sun cream, and also a woolly hat and gloves with you, because at the summit it can be 10 degrees colder than it is down in the valley. So just make sure that you have got layers with you and that you can keep warm at the top. Waterproof's really important. I am going to stop sharing my screen with you just for a second, just so I can show you my waterproof here. Clearly we get lots of different kinds of waterproofs. The main thing to remember is to get one that is seam sealed. What that is where you have a join on your waterproof, if you look on the inside, it will look like there's a tape over it. This is because when the different parts of waterproofs are put together, all the sewing holes that there are let the water in. So they put tape over these holes to stop the water getting in. So just have a double check of your waterproofs to make sure that it is seam sealed. Skipped ahead again, just bear with me, guys. Yes, you will need a waterproof jacket and trousers. And I would take them on the cycling with you as well as when you go for the walk at Ben Nevis. You might need to wear them cycling, and you might appreciate your jacket as a windproof on the kayaking. I'd recommend wearing walking boots over walking shoes on Ben Nevis, just because your ankles can get quite tired, and it helps to prevent ankle breaks and things like that if you go over on tired ankles if you wear walking boots. To go with those boots, just make sure you've practiced in the socks you're going to wear as well. Different people get on with different types of socks. I would thoroughly recommend getting a proper pair of walking socks. There's lots of different brands out there. My personal preference is Bridgedale. You also get some which are like a double layer sock. They give me blisters. I stay away from them. Other people swear by them. So just test out whatever you're going to use before you go. You'll need a backpack for your trekking. You can take a backpack with you cycling as well to keep your water in. It doesn't need to be the same backpack. You can take a smaller one for the cycling if you choose. But just make sure you do take enough water with you for both the trek and the cycle. Some people prefer a hydration bladder, which is this kind of reservoir with a tube coming out of it, the blue thing on the screen. If you've never used one before, they're quite good in that you can just sip as you go without having to stop and get your bottle out and take a sip. The only thing is you kind of don't know how much you've drank from them, so just have a practice with them and maybe take a bottle with a little bit of extra water in case you do run out there. I've included some physio tape on the screen there. That's for blisters. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And I've also included a little tube with some hydration sachets in. They come in different forms. Sometimes they're sachets, sometimes they're tablets. Some of you might know them as electrolyte tablets. If you're getting a bit dehydrated, they just provide you with that extra boost and make sure that you're still feeling well. It's particularly when you've been exercising for several hours. And the final thing is walking poles. I would thoroughly recommend them for Ben Nevis. It's steep up, it's steep down, and walking poles can take 33% of the weight off your knees. So if you do feel like that might be an issue for you, I would take the walking poles. And the leaders will be able to show you how to use them as well if you're not used to using them. Actually, my final thing to say is about overnight bags. So I mentioned that we will need to check out of the hostel on the last day and put your bags in the support vehicle. Just be aware that we do have a large group. If you're packing for England, please make sure that you don't take quite as much as you might normally. And just bear in mind, we've got quite a few people's bags to fit in the van. So just pack lightly, pack what you need, and maybe use the extra 2 bags, leave them at home. Okay, feet, I was going to mention, just because this is the thing which usually scuppers people. Looking after your feet means that you are more likely to be able to enjoy your challenge as well as finish your challenge. So practice with the right socks, practice with your boots, and make sure that they're worn in before you get to the challenge. Don't buy them and just leave them in a box and get them out for the challenge, because you're more likely to get blisters then. Make sure you've gone to a shop and that they have measured your feet up. They've advised you on the right size boots for you. Just because your friend has a particular brand and says they're brilliant doesn't mean that they're necessarily the right ones for you. Hopefully you guys have all got your boots sorted now. So you're breaking them in and they'll all be fine. But do pay attention to those socks as well. And if it's, who knows, maybe we'll get a heat wave forecast in the start of October. If we do get that heat wave, I just pack an extra pair of socks in your day sack to take with you, because having dry feet always feels a bit nicer partway through. Here's that sports tape that I mentioned earlier, or physio tape. Looking after your feet is really important. So if you feel you're getting a hot spot early on in the day, just make sure that you sort it out there and then. Don't wait for it to become a blister, because that is when it gets a bit more painful and a bit more difficult to walk. So if you feel like you've got a hot spot where the skin is rubbing on the outside of your boots, physio tape is just a stretchy tape. It just means that it curves nicely around toes and heels and things, and your boot can rub on that instead of your skin. And that should prevent a blister happening. If you are definitely getting a blister and you can see it on your skin, stop and put a Compeed on. My personal recommendation is the proper Compeed. They are expensive, but they do seem to work a lot better than some of the others. Not paid by Compeed to say that, it is just my personal preference and experience of walking with groups for 8 years. So that one does seem to work better. Right, toilets during the trek in particular. So on Ben Nevis, there are no toilets. So when you leave the hostel, that is your last toilet point for the day until you get back down to the toilet later on. If you do need the toilet, it is the great outdoors. It will be the loo with the view. And we recommend that you do take a bit of toilet roll, and perhaps those of you who've got dogs, you can get the little doggy bags to put toilet roll in to take back down with you. You can get Ziploc bags and things as well. Just make sure that whatever you take up with you, you are taking down with you as well. So please don't leave any toilet roll in the mountains. Your leaders will talk about toilet etiquette with you when you go there, but just be aware that there are other people on the mountains. There are some places that you can go and have a bit of a private moment if you need one, but there are no toilets on the mountain, so it will be a wild wee on the hill. For those going cycling and kayaking, there is a toilet at the kayaking location, so you will have the opportunity to use that. And if you do go off at any point, particularly on Ben Nevis, just let a leader know where you're going so they don't disappear off without you. So it's not that they're going to stand and wait for you there, but they will just look out for you and make sure that you're back with the group again when you're done. I won't go into too much detail about the Countryside Code because it basically is just this idea that we are respectful of other users of the countryside as well as the landscape itself. So it's some basic things like don't litter, take whatever you took up with you back down with you. This includes things like fruit peel, banana skins. Just make sure you take it back down to the hostel and use the bins there. There are lots of other people on the mountain, so we just need to be respectful of users there. So if there are runners, we'll move out of their way on the path. Similarly, some people are there for the quiet of the mountain, so we don't want to be blasting music out as we go up and down. Some people like to use this as a memorial activity. I don't think this is usually so much the case with your group, but if anybody was planning it, if I can just ask that you don't leave anything on the mountain, take photos and enjoy the moment that way, but please don't leave anything like rocks or teddy bears or anything like that, because we do need to preserve the mountain as it is for everybody else. Similarly for kayaking, take your litter home with you, be respectful of other users on the paths, and in the forest area we may come across other walkers, so it's just making sure that we stay out of their way on the path as we're kind of bowling down on our bikes as well. Health problems. A few people have registered that they have some. Your leaders will get that information. If you have any problems on the trek itself, please just let your leaders know as soon as possible. Like I said, they're really friendly, they're really supportive, they're there to help you and make sure that you can do as much of the challenge as possible. So just let them know as soon as you have any problems. We've already talked about blister management. That tape is a godsend. I'd thoroughly recommend it, as well as the blister plasters. And the other thing is just to make sure you keep eating and drinking little and often, just to keep your energy levels up. And there's that nice balance you can get of making sure you've got slow release carbohydrates. So things like, bread and your sandwiches and bananas and things. And then you can have a quick hit to help you get up the steeper sections. And that's where things like sweets come in. Right, and that is me pretty much done there. So I will stop sharing my presentation with you. Pat, are you okay if I see if anyone's got any questions before I hand over to you? Great, okay. So has anybody got any questions that they'd like to ask?
For the groups being split, I take it the people that you're registered with, you'll be kept together with them?
And that one over to Kat, who did the grouping.
Yes, I have done. So where people have signed up as teams of 2, then you're definitely in your teams of 2. Where there's big groups from certain organisations, we might have had to split those big groups up just so that we've not got one group full of one organisation. But generally, it's a fairly even split of people kind of being kept together.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? There are no daft questions, by the way. If you're thinking it, there is bound to be somebody else thinking it too.
I was just going to say, Kat, are you okay to share the groups in advance just so we know what we're doing first?
Yes, I can do. I can
okay.
email those round.
Thank you.
Just be interested, without studying the maps, to know what the bike terrain is like.
So the bike,
as in how hilly is it, rather than the actual surface?
So from the kayak location back to the glen, it's really flat. We have a road section that takes you out to the kayaking location, and that is, I'm not going to say flat because it is Scotland, but it's not terribly hilly. You've got something like 200 meters over the course of that 19-kilometer stretch, so it's kind of spread out and gradual. The kind of the hilliest bit that you'll feel is when you go into the forest, and we do have some uphill sections there, but again they're kind of short and sweet sections rather than long drawn out sections, and it's really normal at these points for people to get off and push a little way, so don't feel like you have to cycle up everything. Like, it's totally normal to get off and push a little bit if you have to. Yeah, so I think we've got something like 400 meters over the course of the entire day.
Great, thank you.
Hi Laura, we're planning on driving up, so meeting at a checkpoint, do we have to leave our car there, or can we then drive on towards parking at the hostel closer by? Or
so Dylan, did you email me about this earlier? Sorry, I've forgotten who it was who messaged me about their bike now. I think you're probably okay to meet at the hostel. So all we're going to do in Fort William is literally tick people off and get you on a coach, and then the safety briefing will be done at the hostel. So you should have Jim's number as part of your final details document. So on the day, just message Jim to say that you are at the hostel, so he's not waiting for you at the coach. But I'll make a note, Dylan, that you're going to go straight to the hostel.
That's great, thank you.
If anybody else is planning to go straight to the hostel, if you can let me know, just so we're not all waiting with the coach in Fort William, that would be great.
Thanks, Laura.
Do you think it would be okay to park in, did you say Travelodge, or where did you say they're meeting?
We're meeting by the Travelodge. They don't actually have a car park because it's in the town centre, but there's one that's like a 5-minute walk away. I think it's called the West End car park. It's right by the lock. It's kind of the big paint display one that you see as soon as you get into Fort William, and then it's a 5-minute walk to the Travelodge. So you are welcome to meet the group where the coach is, but you don't need to. If I know that you're going to meet at the hostel instead, that is okay.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Ryan put a question in the chat, so I guess just from out, so there's, well, there are 10 of us from Hitachi overall, so we've decided to get the train to Glasgow, and then we're going to drive up to Fort William. We couldn't quite make the train times work for us. Yeah, that's what we're doing, Ryan.
Okay. Can I just, I think everybody's got my email. Are you okay to just email me if you aren't going to meet in Fort William, just so we've got that clear list of who we're expecting on the coach? Otherwise, yeah, sure. Jim will be standing there worrying that half the group are missing.
Yeah, we'll do.
Yeah.
I think the other one that I know we've had an email from maybe one, if anybody is planning on bringing their own bike, then please let us know in advance. It was on the notes that we sent out a few weeks ago, but just if there's anyone who hasn't done that, if you could let us know in advance, just so that the team know how many bikes they do or don't need.
If nobody has any other questions, then I'm going to hand over to Kat to talk about fundraising.
This is the bit where everyone starts logging off, isn't it? Because they go, oh, she's going to talk about money. So obviously the challenge is great because you're all going to have a wonderful time and it's going to be a brilliant experience. And for us as a charity, this is the first one of this kind that we've done. We're hoping that the triple series can become a thing. And as Laura's mentioned, you can do them in Wales and in England as well, taking on different mountains and things like that. So it's a brilliant opportunity for the charity to grow its events programme. But obviously the main reason why everybody's here is for fundraising for Railway Children. We're really, really grateful to David and Hitachi for sponsoring the event. And there's lots of people from Hitachi joining us. And it makes a massive difference because that sponsorship from the company means that all of the fundraising that you guys are doing is going directly to the work that we do. And just by showing up, just by signing up to the event, by being here today, by showing up to the event, you're already making a difference. The event itself is already at about £14,000 in terms of its fundraising, which is brilliant. And kind of now's the time to start pushing it. We've got a month to go. Through signing up, everybody pledged to that £350 minimum fundraising target. And if everybody gets to that, then we can kind of get much, much higher. We can add another £10,000 onto where we are at the moment, which is brilliant. We've already got people who have nearly doubled that amount in their fundraising. And we've also got people who are well on their way. And there's some people who are still yet to start, and that's absolutely fine. It's just remembering to think of as many different ways as possible to be able to get your fundraising up. Sometimes it's as simple as just sharing it across your social media channels, putting it in your email signature to get people, and just generally telling everybody about what you're doing. And going away and going, oh my gosh, I've just had a briefing with Laura and she told me it's going to be really hard and I should have done some training and now I need to raise some money. Let people know that it's going to be really hard, because that's the way that they're going to want to support you and want to kind of see you through this challenge. And of course, it's letting them know about why you're doing it and all about Railway Children. I'm sure, well, I know some people on here have supported Railway Children with other events and are kind of regularly in contact with Railway Children, and there's other people here who have not worked with us before and don't know a massive amount about the charity. And each time I've emailed you, I've tried to give you a little bit of a story and a bit of an insight into the work that we do. And we are across the UK, across India and across Tanzania, supporting children every single day. Our project workers are sat with children right this minute, kind of making sure that they're okay and supporting them. And we've got people from British Transport Police filing reports to help us help more people, and that's where all of this money goes. And it's trying to remember that, and it's when you're halfway up that hill and your walking poles aren't doing what they're supposed to do and your athlete's foot tape or whatever it was, Laura, isn't helping you. It's all those kind of things where you got to think that's the reason you're doing it. If we can get the other £10,000 through this, that just that £10,000 alone can run one of our shelters near a station in India for a month and things like that. And we can actively kind of say where this money that you're raising could support, and it makes such a difference. So if you need any fundraising support, need any ideas, need any help at all, then please just let me know, because that's what I'm here for. We also have a whole fundraising team who's there to help and give different ideas. It might be that your company does match funding and that you need some help claiming your match funding. Anything like that we can help with. We do have a couple of members of the team who are Railway Children staff, and there will be myself and another Railway Children member of staff on the event itself. So we will be there if you want to chat to us about anything to do with the charity or kind of learn about what we're doing. We are there throughout the whole challenge, and we'll be kind of keeping an eye on everything and making sure that our team members are not at the back of the pack all the time. We'll give them a bit of a kick up the hill. Any questions about fundraising or anything like that? Nope. Wonderful. Like I say, if you have any questions or if you want to kind of understand a little bit more about what we do in advance of going, have a look at our website or please just drop me a message. There are people on the team, not just staff members, who have been and seen our project work and have kind of been really involved in what we do. And it's a great chance to get to know what we do and speak to different people from all sorts of different places around the industry. So thank you very much for everyone for getting involved, for signing up. We will have a great time. This time next month, you'll be on your way down a mountain or sat in a kayak, I think. Laura, is there anything else from you?
No, I think that's it. Just please enjoy it, guys. Like, I'm sure I've kind of worried you a little bit about saying it's a challenge and, you know, you've got these steep uphills and everything to do. It is a beautiful part of the world. Please enjoy it. And as Kat has said, like, you're there for an amazing cause. Like, all the fundraising you've done so far, absolutely fantastic. Like, what a team. Just keep looking after each other and you'll have a really good time. And you'll have some great fireside stories to tell everybody when you come back. If you do have any questions, if anyone's got any concerns or anything you just want to check, feel free to email the Charity Challenge team. So we're at challenges@charitychallenge.com, and you've also got Kat's details there, so you can ask Kat as well. Otherwise, I wish you all the best of luck, and I hope you have a fantastic challenge. I shall stop recording there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Kat.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, both.
See you soon.
See you.